It's a very specific cultural image of the typical video gamer. They are attention deficit stimulus junkies, sitting in a dark room, completely mesmerized by flashy graphics and virtual carnage. We tend to assume that playing a video game is entirely passive. It's a lazy digital babysitter that allows a person to sit on the couch and tune out, requiring zero active thought. But if games are truly that mindless, we run into a contradiction. Why do people voluntarily spend hours failing at them? And why does this industry generate billions of dollars year after year? To understand the actual appeal of gaming, we have to look past the glowing screen. We need to examine the physical mechanics of what is happening inside the brain of the person holding the controller. Drop your preconceived notions for a moment. View video games not as an escape from reality, but as a rigorous cognitive workout. A few years ago, James G., a professor of learning sciences, decided to sit down with his 6-year-old son to play a preschool-age game called Pajama Sam. G figured he could breeze through the levels and help his kid beat the villain. Instead, the game was so difficult that the learning sciences professor had to turn to his 6-year-old and ask him for help. Intrigued, G then picked up a mature sci-fi game called The Time Machine. He expected some casual entertainment. Instead, he hit a wall of brutal difficulty, forcing him to navigate incredibly complex puzzles just to progress. Struggling through those puzzles, G recognized a specific mental strain he hadn't felt since his graduate school days. He was undergoing a process of rapid, exhausting acquisition of new patterns, learning through pure challenge. The core appeal of a video game is entirely opposite to passive consumption. The draw is the friction. It is the thrill of overcoming brutal difficulty through rapid, continuous adaptation. This animated diagram illustrates a psychological concept known as the regime of competence. It is the specific educational sweet spot where a lesson challenges a student right at the absolute edge of their abilities. Look at these Tetrasports. This game perfectly embodies that regime. It starts slow, giving you time to build confidence. But the exact second you master the current level, the game mechanically escalates the speed and complexity of the falling blocks. This PET scan tracks glucose metabolic rates in the brain of a novice Tetris player. The intense colors represent a high level of energy consumption, showing how hard an untrained mind has to labor just to keep up. But as we plot the data on this chart after a month of regular play, the results are counterintuitive. The subjects improved their game performance by a factor of 7, yet their brain glucose levels actually dropped. The escalating difficulty trains the brain to internalize the game's logic so thoroughly that it begins processing complex spatial information with hyper-efficiency, expending less overall energy to achieve vastly superior results. That raises a logical question. If playing a game is actually grueling cognitive labor, why do players willingly endure the frustration of failing repeatedly? To find out, researchers took a group of adults and shoved them into an fMRI scanner to play an intense video game called Tactical Ops. The tube was loud, incredibly cramped, and highly uncomfortable. The researchers expected the participants to demand a break within 20 minutes. Instead, the subjects happily ignored the severe physical discomfort and noise, staying in the tube for over an hour because they were entirely entranced by the screen. The chemical driver behind this focus is dopamine, the core of the brain's seeking circuitry. It functions as a biological engine that propels us to explore new environments and solve problems for a clearly defined reward. Video games are meticulously engineered dopamine engines. By providing clear rewards for continuous exploration, they lock the human brain into an incredibly tight loop of intense learning. It's fair to ask whether any of this matters. Does this hyper-efficient brain training and chemical looping have any practical application outside the virtual world? Looking at these players tracking the action, you can see why cognitive science researchers found that action gamers possess vastly superior peripheral monitoring and visual recognition skills compared to non-gamers, and the translation of those skills goes well beyond basic visual perception. Dr. James Rosser ran a study examining the physical reflexes of highly trained medical staff. Here we see a modern surgical team. Rosser found that laparoscopic surgeons who play video games make 37% fewer errors than their peers, entirely due to the hand-eye coordination and depth perception forged by gaming. The reflexes forged in digital environments are actively upgrading human performance in some of the highest stakes physical environments on Earth. Beyond physical reflexes, complex games require a player to manage multiple interconnected streams of information. Success depends on the ability to prioritize resources and navigate vast, overlapping systems simultaneously. Take a look at the interlocking infrastructure of a simulated city. During a playthrough of SimCity, the author Steven Johnson showed his 7-year-old nephew a tour of his struggling, crime-ridden virtual metropolis. The young boy casually looked over the abandoned, rusted factories and confidently diagnosed the root cause of the urban decay. He told his uncle, "I think you need to lower your industrial tax rates." Through 20 minutes of interactive trial and error, the boy internalized a fundamental principle of urban economics, that industrial zones falter when taxes are too high. It was a simulation-based lesson in resource management that outperformed traditional classroom instruction. The next time you see someone intensely focused on a game, do not see a distracted zombie. Recognize them as an active participant in an elite learning machine, running perceptual simulations and training their brain to navigate the complex systems of the modern world.